inductee directed 19 major motion pictures, which I know most of you have probably seen. I know I have. They include Vampires, Village of the Damned, Memories of an Invisible Man, Big Trouble in Little China, Starman, Christine, The Thing, Escape from New York, Halloween, of course, Halloween, and Dark Star. He won an Academy Award back in 1970 for Best Short Subject Live Action. He has directed many well-known actors, including Jeff Bridges, Kurt Russell, James Wood, and Jamie Lee Curtis. His talents aren't just limited to directing either. He's also written the musical scores for many of his movies. Our next inductee is Mr. John Carpenter.
Now, my parents were the ones who said, John, you can do anything you want to do. You have to just go do it. You can do anything you want to do, but create something, make something. Write something, say something, paint something, compose something, do something. Get out there and do it. You can do whatever you want.
John Carpenter left Bowling Green for Hollywood in 1968 with a dream and an undeniable talent, the ability to light up the silver screen. When he left and enrolled at the University of Southern California Film School, his friends knew he would return only to visit. For Carpenter, California was the place to be.
My dad had given me his 8mm movie camera, and I'd made movies with my school friends back in the old days, and I thought, look, this is it. You got to try it now. So I convinced my father, by begging and pleading, to send me to a film school. And I was accepted at USC, and USC is the best film school in the world.
2 years later, The Resurrection of Bronco Billy, a film he wrote as a student at USC, had won Carpenter his first Academy Award. Then, in 1978, his trademark Halloween hit the theaters. He says it was that film that branded him as one of Hollywood's most prolific horror filmmakers.
It was a pretty big, successful film for its time, and I got good reviews. And so people recognized me and associated me with horror films, and I got typecast. I actually got in this business to make Westerns.
Imagine Michael Myers in a cowboy hat, but those were the type of movies he grew up with.
My favorite movie of all time I saw at the Capitol, it was Rio Bravo with John Wayne. And it was booked into the theater for, I think it was 2 or 3 days, and it ended up playing over a week. It just kept playing and playing because the movie was so popular. And I must have seen Rio Bravo 2 or 3 times during that time, and that was it. That was 1959.
Bennie Beach was one of Carpenter's boyhood friends. Both their fathers taught in Western's music department.
I always thought John was funny. He always tried to scare me, but I always thought he was hilarious. Every time I was around him, I just laughed all the time, just uncontrollably.
Many of Carpenter's boyhood friends would act out characters he had created, and most of the time, their stage was at Carpenter's house, a residence most Westerners know well.
I grew up on the Western campus, literally. Behind the Kentucky building, before they built the girls' dorms over there, it's a little log house. That's where I lived. I lived on campus property. There was a gigantic garden around me when I was growing up. It was every flower that was indigenous to Kentucky. And we were in a little cabin sitting down at a log house with a log fence around it.
And he would have a rough script, and he would say, okay, now we're playing cowboys and Indians, and when I point to you, you fall down, and you shoot him, and you do this. And he was directing people back when he was 10, 11 years old. So yeah, he's doing exactly what he was chosen to do, I think.
Moviegoers are well aware of Carpenter's success as a writer and a director. However, his ability to compose movie scores is also noteworthy.
We all played in the college high school orchestra together for several years, and I was really never very good playing the trombone, and John was very accomplished as a violinist, and I'm sure he played other instruments, but that's the one he played in the orchestra. And you just knew he was a lot better than the rest of us.
Carpenter has directed 19 major motion pictures. The Fog, Escape from New York, Starman, and Vampires are among the many. He gives a lot of credit for his success to circumstance.
You know, I've been a really lucky guy in this business. And because some of my movies are successful, because some of them have a kind of a cult following. People like certain ones of them. I've been very lucky, and I've managed to, for the most part, make films that are mine. They weren't interfered with by somebody else, and that's kind of a rarity.
Carpenter says the list of people who've made a difference in his life is endless.
I would think the biggest influences on my life, besides my parents, who are the greatest parents anybody could ever have for getting you to be creative. They gave me gifts that you can't buy anywhere. They gave me a love of music, a love of creativity, a love of movies. But I would say my school friends, because it was with them, my college, high school friends. My class went through kindergarten through 12th grade, and we all stayed together. And I learned about life and myself through them. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Despite all the glamour and glitz of Hollywood, John Carpenter is still a down-to-earth individual who remembers his roots quite often. Bowling Green and Western will always be home.
I suppose that most of who I am and what I believe in was figured out walking around the grounds of the Kentucky building after dinner, when the sun's going down, before all the construction in that area. I don't think I've ever been in a more beautiful spot in my life. And all the thoughts of I don't know, life and death, people, beauty, cruelty, fear, whatever I was thinking about, I thought about walking by myself there. I was a loner, but I grew up in a paradise. And I kind of became who I am there.
1999 Hall of Distinguished Alumni honoree, John Carpenter.
Well, I want to thank you very much for this award. I'm honored, I'm delighted, and I'm thrilled. I think I've said everything I have to say in that videotape. I would like to acknowledge two of my early stars are sitting at this table, Steve Todd and Mike Caudle, but they both became lawyers, which just shows you what my direction will do to you. Sometimes people ask me, what kind of basic qualification do you need to become a movie director in Hollywood? I think the first thing that you need are great parents. And I was lucky enough to be blessed with two of the greatest human beings on the earth who got me exactly where I am today. Dr. Howard and Gene Carpenter are sitting right down there. So to them and to all of you, thank you again, and I really appreciate this award, and thanks a lot.